An old man named Geppetto, who was a carpenter and sculptor, lived with his son Carlo in a humble village in the countryside of Italy. They enjoyed each other's company, as all they needed was one another, and they were loved by everybody. One day, when the old man was creating a wooden sculpture of Jesus in the church with his son's help, he suddenly halted after hearing the sounds of planes. They decided to leave the church and return to their house. But as they were about to leave, his son remembered he had forgotten his pine cone inside the church and decided to go back inside to fetch it. Unfortunately, he was killed by bombs dropped unintentionally by the planes, which wanted to lighten their load as they returned to base. The old man's village happened to be below their release point. The only thing that survived was Carlo's pine cone, which he had gone inside to fetch. After burying his son alongside the pine cone, the old man never left his son's side. He worked very little, ate very little, and the sculpture inside the church remained unfinished. Years passed, the pine cone grew, the world moved on, but the old man did not. One day, a wandering cricket named Sebastian, looking for a place to settle and write his fascinating life story, ended up in the pine tree that grew alongside Carlo's grave after being buried by his father. That night, Geppetto was drinking, sobbing, and weeping beside his son's grave. But it wasn't only Sebastian who watched the old man sobbing. There was also a wandering wood spirit who lived in the forest and rarely involved themselves in the human world. While drunk, the old man reached a breaking point and demanded Carlo return to him, complaining to God about why he didn't listen to his prayers. Geppetto decided to take matters into his own hands, cut down the pine tree, and intended to make Carlo out of the pine tree. He then dragged the logs into his house with the cricket inside and started sculpting the log into different parts. Eventually, he made what looked like a wooden boy the same age as his dead son, but decided to finish it the next day due to tiredness. He couldn't even make it upstairs and passed out on the floor. Soon after the old man passed out, the wood spirit came inside the house. Sebastian tried to chase it away as he didn't want to share his house, but to his surprise, the spirits came together and formed a wood spirit in the shape of a woman. She started to speak life into the wooden boy, telling it to rise with the sun and walk the earth. Sebastian interrupted and asked who she was, telling her to consult him first since he was the homeowner of the wooden boy. The wood spirit struck a deal with him to help the wooden boy and guide him to be good, promising to grant Sebastian one wish if he agreed. The wood spirit finished speaking life into the wooden boy, named him Pinocchio, and told him to rise with the sun, wander the earth, and accompany the poor old man, filling his days with light so that he would never be alone. When the old man woke up the next morning, he couldn't find the wooden boy he had created the previous day. Suddenly, he heard movements upstairs and took his axe, ready to confront the intruder. The old man was shocked to see the wooden boy he had created standing on its own feet and even calling him Papa, saying he had asked to live and introducing himself as Pinocchio, his son. The old man couldn't believe what was happening and was filled with fear, telling the wooden boy not to go near him. The wooden boy ended up breaking everything in the house, causing Geppetto to lock him inside and leave. However, the kid broke out and wandered the city until he ended up at the church, where his father had also headed. Everyone freaked out, saying it was a demon, but the old man tried to calm them down, saying it was just a puppet. They couldn't believe it since it had no strings and seemed to have a mind of its own. Pinocchio interrupted, saying he wasn't a puppet and was made of flesh and bones, but it was a lie, and his wooden nose started growing, scaring the people even more. The priest intervened and chased the old man and his wooden boy out of the church. That evening, the priest and the village officer visited Geppetto's house, telling him that the community was shocked and they wanted to ensure the boy meant no harm. They agreed that the boy should not run wild and should be sent to school the next day to be taught discipline. The next day, Geppetto and Pinocchio went to the church to finish the sculpture. On their way, they met a monkey putting up posters for a puppet circus show nearby. The monkey ran off to tell the circus ringmaster about the living puppet in the village. The ringmaster was intrigued and decided to see for himself, believing they could become rich if they used the wooden boy as their puppet. In the church, Geppetto and Pinocchio finished the sculpture. The old man gave Carlo's book to the wooden boy, telling him to go to school and behave. The wooden boy promised to do so and left. But as he was about to enter the school, the ringmaster approached him, calling him a star and telling him he was chosen to be the star of his puppet show. Sebastian tried to stop him, reminding him of his promise to his father, but the ringmaster's promises of fame and travel convinced Pinocchio. The ringmaster then had the wooden boy sign a contract without a second thought. At the church, Geppetto finished the sculpture. The priest and the village officer informed him that Pinocchio did not make it to school. They trusted that he would go the next day. Meanwhile, at the circus, after Pinocchio indulged in all the popcorn and chocolate he wanted, he decided to go back to school, but the ringmaster insisted he come on stage and perform. After searching for Pinocchio all day, Geppetto finally learned from Sebastian that the boy was at the circus. Geppetto found Pinocchio performing and dragged him away. They argued about Carlo's book, which Pinocchio had abandoned. The boy lied, and his nose grew, causing the pine tree yield pine cone. The ringmaster fought with Geppetto for the wooden boy. Eventually an accident occurred that caused Pinocchio death. In the underworld, the wooden boy met the queen and learned he couldn't truly die. She explained that he must wait until the sand in the hourglass ran out before he could return to his father. In the world, just after the doctor announced Pinocchio's death, he suddenly woke up, surprising everyone. Geppetto wanted to take him home, but the ringmaster showed the signed contract, demanding Pinocchio perform or pay 10 million lira. The village officer insisted Pinocchio should join the youth camp to learn to fight, as he couldn't be killed and would be an ideal soldier. Geppetto left, planning to settle everything later. The wooden boy, unaware of the trouble he had caused, told his father not to worry and that he would go to war, believing it sounded fun. Geppetto disagreed, saying war took Carlo from him. He lamented the burden Pinocchio had become, wishing he could be like Carlo. Pinocchio declared he was not Carlo and would never be like him, causing Geppetto to leave in a fury. That night, Pinocchio couldn't sleep, thinking about being called a burden. The cricket tried to comfort him, saying parents sometimes say things they don't mean. The boy devised a plan to help his father by working at the circus to avoid going to war. He left a note explaining everything and put Sebastian inside a glass to stop him. Pinocchio went to the ringmaster, striking a deal to send 50% of the revenue to his father, and left with the circus. In the morning, Geppetto couldn't find Pinocchio, but found Sebastian trapped. The old man rushed to the circus, but the wooden boy was gone. Geppetto agonized over how to find his son. Sebastian advised him to understand the wooden boy instead of calling him a burden. They found a poster with the circus's next stop, and Geppetto set off to find his son. He was always one step behind as the circus moved from city to city, making a lot of money from Pinocchio's performances. Meanwhile, the ringmaster overworked Pinocchio, leaving him exhausted. The jealous monkey tried to convince him to leave, revealing that the ringmaster never sent any money to Geppetto. Pinocchio didn't believe it, thinking they were just jealous. Geppetto tried to cross the ocean, but was warned about a sea monster that swallowed everything near it. On the other side, the ringmaster punished the monkey for telling the truth. Pinocchio overheard him and threatened to stop performing, but the ringmaster revealed his true colors, forcing Pinocchio to continue working while plotting revenge with the monkey on their last stop, where the president would also attend. The revenge succeeded, but cost Pinocchio his life. The president ordered him to be shot after being humiliated on stage. Pinocchio returned to the underworld, waited a bit, and was sent back. He woke up in a car with other children headed to the youth camp. At the camp, they were given paint guns and told to capture a flag. Pinocchio and the officer's son fought, but ended up laughing and putting both flags up simultaneously, thinking they both won. The commander was furious and gave his son a real gun, ordering him to shoot Pinocchio. The boy refused, so the commander tried to shoot Pinocchio himself, but failed. Planes bombed the camp, sending Pinocchio outside where he encountered the circus ringmaster, who sought revenge for ruining his life. The ringmaster captured Pinocchio and put him on a cross, intending to burn him, but the monkey intervened, saving the boy and throwing the ringmaster into the water, killing him. The monkey and Pinocchio also ended up in the water, where they were swallowed by the sea monster. Inside the monster, Pinocchio reunited with his father, who had been swallowed earlier. Determined not to die inside the monster, they used Pinocchio's growing nose when he lied as a bridge to escape through the monster's nose. This worked, but the monster swallowed Pinocchio again and tried to swallow the others. Fortunately, the monster swallowed a bomb along with Pinocchio, which exploded and threw them all into the water. Sadly, Pinocchio died. In the underworld, Pinocchio rushed to the queen, begging to be sent back immediately to save his drowning father. This time, the hourglass was much larger, indicating a longer wait. Realizing his father wouldn't survive if he waited, Pinocchio broke the hourglass, becoming mortal and returning to save Geppetto, but at the cost of his own life. Geppetto survived, but Pinocchio died permanently. The wood spirit appeared, explaining that Pinocchio became a real boy to save his father, and real boys don't come back from the dead. Sebastian the cricket, seeing the unfairness, used his one wish to save Pinocchio. The wood spirit disappeared, and Pinocchio was revived. The four of them, Geppetto, Pinocchio, Sebastian, and the monkey, returned to their humble village. They lived together until Geppetto's death, followed by Sebastian and then the monkey, leaving Pinocchio alone to venture into the world that embraced him. Subscribe now for more exciting videos.